This is The Strategist, episode 1886. My name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, Stephen Carter, Shannon Phillips. Hello, friends.
Hello.
Was 1886 an important year? Why do I feel like when I said that, I'm like, oh, that's like, I feel like I'm rattling off.
To the people who lived in 1886, but I'm not so sure it's important.
Did it have
to us.
historical significance in any way? Do you remember? Does anyone know?
1886.
Why does it seem like we should know that year? I'm going to look it up. Hold on. We're going to actually we're going to actually bask in silence while I look up 1886.
Shannon, how are you
Was
doing?
it important? No, we're going to bask in silence.
Good.
We're going to bask
Thank
in
you.
silence.
No,
we're going to bask.
not basking.
Why are you guys so uncomfortable in silence?
It's not that we're
Haymarket
uncomfortable.
Affair in Chicago.
Landmark here for Coca-Cola. Maybe that's why I know. Did you know my
That's
dad
where
worked
we're
for
both
Coca-Cola?
reading the Google
35 years.
AI slop here.
That's good. My dad worked for Coke for 35 years.
Well, that's an excellent story.
Sorry,
Thank you.
cocaine. He was part of the drug trade. Sorry, I should have clarified.
Should be more specific.
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, Haymarket was a big labor thing, right? So it was a big labor demonstration. So like we're talking about American history here because we're reading off the Google
Is this our
AI
new
slop.
thing? Do we
Just
just...
historical.
We just Google years.
Yeah, no. Every episode moves up a year, and we just start with, have we just not taken advantage of this opportunity for 1,800 plus episodes, Carter, to talk about the year?
Yeah, exactly. What would we have done with episode 3?
Yeah.
You know,
I think a lot happened in 3. Arguably, some very big shit happened in 3.
Probably some Roman shit.
Yeah.
Soon. Yeah. Serious Roman
If you're
shit.
stuck
that
all
we
day, the
care about.
dinosaurs and the humans were both alive back then.
Oh, at
dueling
the
it
same
out.
time?
Same
Yeah.
time, dueling it out.
Yeah. Barney roaming the earth. Wasn't that the...
Yes. And speaking of dinosaurs, Carter, those same fossils now provide oil and gas.
Thank
what do you think
God.
of that? What do you think of that transition? Huh?
Well, that was really well
Pretty
done.
good. You think that's pretty
Yeah,
good?
Which in turn also provides all of our electricity. So this has worked out
Well,
really well.
oh,
Not
well,
quite.
there you go.
But without them, we wouldn't have a provincial identity or a reason to be proud of ourselves.
Should we talk about it? I guess let's talk about it. I want to break this down in, 3 quarters talking about the pipeline stuff. And then I do want to actually, and the reason I'm saying this out loud is just to remind myself, because as you know,
mostly,
this show works on the fly. I want to talk about the UCP AGM and their convention that they're having, and what are the ramifications of all that sort of pipeline talk related to that particular group. But let's start here. Shannon, Stephen, we now have an MOU.
Yeah.
It exists. It is real. It is, as predicted, not several dozen pages. It is 2 or 3 pages. It is very short. Danielle Smith signed it yesterday alongside Mark Carney in Calgary. He then gave a speech to 2 standing ovations at the Calgary Chamber of Commerce to 1,000 plus people. Carter, Shannon, we can talk about the details of the MOU or the lack thereof, but I want to spend the majority of it on the strategy side of things for each of the relevant parties. But give me your take, Stephen Carter, in terms of when you first saw it, what stuck out to you or what sticks out for you in terms of the MOU itself? And Shannon, same question, and then I'll add some details along the way.
Well, I think that if we're talking about the big takeaway for me was the pipeline, right? The pipeline, the promised pipeline, which has to have a private proponent by July 1st, 2026, which I thought was a super tight timeline. And I saw Carney commenting on it, saying if there wasn't private dollars, there wouldn't be a pipeline, which I had hoped he would be saying, because I just don't see a private proponent coming around in the next 7 months to build a multi-billion-dollar project, even if that multi-billion-dollar project is backed by the governments of Canada and the government of Alberta. I just don't see that happening. I just don't, I think that this is a great memorandum of understanding for Danielle Smith to wave around at her AGM, as you've kind of alluded to. But it is a more important document for Carney when it all starts to fall apart and he has to have a new election in a few months or a few years' time.
Shannon, what's your main takeaway? And we'll get into some of the details in terms of what it does show.
My main takeaway is that this is a major signal to oil and gas investors that they can place capital here without any of the other uncertainties that had been placed in, or that they had heretofore said were barriers to them placing capital, the clean electricity regulations. So moving those aside means that you can invest in natural gas fired electricity generation anywhere in the country, because think we all know that an exemption for Alberta is basically icing the policy entirely. There would no longer be any oil and gas cap regulations that were still TBD. And so if you wanted to make an investment in any kind of primary production in Alberta or elsewhere, that you wouldn't have to, factor that in to your risk outlook for that investment. Linear infrastructure of many kinds, not just the North Coast, but other types of investments in linear transportation infrastructure for oil and gas, that those would be not frustrated by an oil and gas cap or other forms of regulation, but would also be declared in the national interest. So this isn't just for a pipeline to the as yet notional to the North Coast, but any other type of infrastructure that people were looking at, whether it was an expansion of existing infrastructure or new investments up to Churchill or east-west interconnectivity or those kinds of things. So it was rolling out the red carpet for that and saying there are no longer any impediments, right? So we're back to Harper era kind of regulatory environment there, and Harper era approach, which is anything goes but Harper plus, which is that if environmental assessment gets in your way or any of those kinds of laws, we'll move those aside for you as well on that side. So it says that to me, and that's what it's saying to global investment community. And it's also saying, on climate, even the stuff that we're going to keep around industrial carbon pricing, that kind of stuff, also negotiable with Alberta and therefore for the country. Yeah. So, and that on the climate side, like methane negotiable, industrial price negotiable. It's baked right there into the agreement. We're going into negotiations on this because there's all kinds of ways for 170 or 130, depend on who you talk to, whether that's a carbon price that's a bit of a mannequin in the window. There's all kinds of complexity behind it. It's basically saying to investors, you don't have anything to worry about in terms of climate or natural resource policy. You can place capital here. If there's capital to be placed, place it in Canada. That's what he's done.
Carter, you want to get in on this, and then I want to talk about strategy and stagecraft, which is the heart of this show.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that Shannon's view of the document, my view of the document, has some variances, and I think it specifically is varied around climate policy. And I think that she's right. A whole bunch of pre-existing climate requirements have been eliminated, but they've been replaced with an effective carbon tax. And that carbon tax is going to be an effective rate. I think it's $130. And if it is at that level, suddenly, and goes up from there, suddenly projects like Pathways become viable. And we could really start to see reduction in carbon output from the Alberta oil sands. That type of reduction in carbon output is essential, I think, to the deal. It is not a deal that says we're going to create all kinds of barriers or boundaries for carbon. Instead, we're going to charge you for it. And I think the industry has often wanted a simple carbon price. I don't think they want $130 effective rate, but that's what they're going to get. And I think that that's why you're starting to see a bunch of people within Danielle Smith's own world and orbit already start to push back and bristle against this memorandum of understanding, is because they know that the cost structure has foundationally changed for their carbon output.
Let's talk about strategy for each of the relevant players, Carney, Smith, and I want to include EB. But before I do that, can we talk about the stagecraft of what we saw? There's going to be many other shows and podcasts and interviews that talk about the deals, the details, and what.
Oh no! Look at that. That's what we call a cliffhanger. And if you wanted to know what we're talking about, you got to subscribe to the Strategist Patreon, strategistpatreon.com. We'll see you soon.